Hey everybody, welcome to the Seahawk Boys 2024 live stream. I'm Seahawk Boy Mike Barra, here to once again analyze, critique, and suffer the foolishness of Seahawks fandom for you guys, because that's what I do. I do it for you guys. All right, we have a situation where there's a few things happening in free agency today that I think are kind of interesting. If you go to um, the Hawk blogger guy, Brian Numskuller, and he's got a rundown of the Seahawks offseason so far, which is they fired Pete Carroll. He didn't put that on there. But they got a new head coach in Mike McDonald. They have a new offensive coordinator in Ryan Grubb. They have a new assistant head coach in Leslie Frazier. I'm not sure that's a good thing, but Frazier was a terrible head coach. New offensive line coach in Scott Huff, new defensive coordinator Arden Durde. And he goes through the list of people they've signed. They've signed Leonard Williams. Well, he was our own guy. They've signed Noah Fant. Well, he was our own guy. They signed Artie Burns. Well, he was our own guy. But then they brought in a few outsiders. Weak side linebacker Terrell Dotson, who looks like he's got some potential. He's a young player with some upside. That's who you want to sign. They signed safety Rayshon Jenkins. And I watched him play a couple times last year for the Jags and was really impressed with some of the plays he made. He's a playmaker, and that's one of the things the Seahawks don't have. Tight end Pharaoh Brown, who's just a blocker, but at least now, instead of a blocking tight end, complete stiff like Will Disley that they're paying $8 million under the cap for, they're paying like nothing for him. And then George Fant. And, George Fant is important. And they got Nick Harris to bring in a little depth into the center position. But then we get into the other stuff. They restructured Tyler Lockett, D. Eskridge, and Darrell Taylor. I think they added a year to Darrell Taylor, though. I think it's actually a renegotiation. And before we get to the very last part, they let a bunch of guys go. Drew Lock, fine. Damian Lewis, wouldn't have minded having him back if they were going to put him at left guard, and he was cheap, but the money was ridiculous. Jordan Brooks, don't let the door hit you in the ass. Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs needed to be cut last year. Quandre Diggs did. Will Disley should never have been re-signed 2 years ago. Colby Parkinson, a player looked like he was on the upswing, finally made a few plays last year. I kind of don't like that, but again, ridiculous coin, $21 million for a TE2 at best, tight end 2? No. Devin Bush didn't do much. Bobby Wagner, it was time. And I agree with Rob Staten on this 100%. It was definitely time. DJ Dallas, another one of Pete Carroll's teacher's pets. DJ Dallas, Nick Bellore, Brian Monet, Will Disley, Pete Carroll's teacher's pets. Thank God they're all gone. DJ Dallas never made a fucking play in 4 years here. Nick Bellore, special teams, old, stiff. Brian Monet didn't do anything. What's your grade as of March 14th? Well, my grade would be a D, maybe a D minus. And I said, it looks like a disaster to me. Same old sign our own guys, free agent BS, and trade for a one-read wonder quarterback who probably can't beat out 34-year-old mid Geno for a job. Feels like 2011 all over again. And that may seem a little harsh, but that is actually my point. Evan Hill, who I disagree with on literally everything. So they don't really like trading for Sam Howell, and I'm trying to talk myself into it, but I can't. And I am with you on that. Colby Patnode, whoever that is on Twitter. What I don't get about the hate the Sam Howell trade has generated for some. If the Seahawks had moved a third and a fifth to move up to draft Bo Nix on draft weekend, nobody would bat an eye. Howell is younger and has both more floor and ceiling than Nix. So why are you complaining? That is actually completely wrong. Bo Nix has a much higher ceiling than Sam Howell, and I'm going to show you why. He's already a more developed quarterback prospect than Sam Howell, and I think he's got an equivalent arm and equivalent mobility. So not that I think Sam Howell is a terrible person or a terrible player. He played pretty well against us last year. He had 3,946, so 4,000 yards. That's pretty great. 21 touchdowns, not bad. 21 interceptions, bad. Okay, as I said yesterday on the stream, a 3-to-1 ratio, touchdown to interception ratio, is really good. In fact, it's almost historic. 2-to-1, is not good. I don't think you're going to win a Super Bowl with a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio quarterback. 1-to-1 is catastrophic. 1-to-1 means you don't know what you're seeing on the field. You are not able to read defenses. It's QBR, I mean, who uses QBR? I use passer rating. I think he was 31st in passer rating, Sam Howell was. Give or take a few spots from guys who only played a few games. Far below Justin Fields, who I would have much rather had them trade for. Seahawks do have another free agent meeting today. Linebacker Jerome Baker visited the Titans, didn't get a contract, and is now going directly to Seattle. So still looking for linebackers. That's a good idea. Just Whitney, you're a racist cunt. Thank you for being here. In fact, let me block you because you are a twat. Boy, the majority of Seahawks fans can just never find anything to be happy about. Bitch and moan about every signing and trade John Schneider makes. I invite you all to just apply for the position and watch a team go 0-17 under you. I don't think so. I'd love the opportunity. If I was the Seahawks owner, we would be doing a lot different things in free agency and the draft. A lot of different things. For one thing, we would have had a quarterback last year. His name would be C.J. Stroud. It would have been the first pick in the draft. We would have traded 3 first-round picks minimum to get him, maybe even some seconds later on. But we'd have our franchise quarterback and a chance to win a Super Bowl every year for the next 10 years. It would have been done already. So here's Jacob Sports 12. So I've thought about the Howell trade for a little bit, and I don't hate the trade. I understand why John Schneider made the trade because Howell has potential and Grubb is great with quarterbacks, but I just worry about the 21 interceptions last year. Not his fault. But overall, I'm just perplexed. Not his fault. Really. Okay. We're going to get into that in a minute. But as I go through this, I just see Seahawks Twitter is like delusional. Let's go over to Hot Blogger again. That's great. You're buddies with John Schneider. And today, the Vikings and the Texans agreed to terms on a major deal in advance of the draft per me and Tom Pelissero, landing Minnesota another one. Minnesota gets number 23 and number 232. And Houston gets number 42, 188, and a 2025 second rounder. Minnesota moves up and Houston collects. Well, Brian is like, Hot Blogger is like, it's odd to see a trade like this ahead of the draft instead of during it. No, it's not. No, it's not. Seahawks Twitter is so dumb. What did the 49ers do a couple years ago? They traded so they could get 3 first-round picks, which they used to trade up and take Trey Lance. Now, a lot of people thought they were going to take Mac Jones. That would have been a disaster. But Trey Lance was an even bigger disaster. So teams do this all the time to collect picks, and that's exactly what the Vikings are doing. Let's take a look over here at the NFL draft order from Tankathon. And you've now got Minnesota sitting at 11 and Minnesota sitting at 23. Where is it? Right there. They don't have many picks after that. Houston now has a bunch of them. But what are they planning on doing? I'll tell you what they're planning on doing. They like somebody. They like Penix. They like J.J. McCarthy. They like somebody at quarterback. And they said when they let Kirk Cousins go, we have a plan. And it is so nice to see a team, unlike the Seahawks, who have a plan for the most important position on the field, which is the quarterback position. It's now been 2 years plus since March 8th, 2022, a date that will live in infamy, when the Seahawks traded away Russell Wilson and got very little for him and didn't spend any of the draft capital they got on finding his replacement as the franchise Hall of Fame quarterback, which they could have easily done last year. What would it have cost? It would have cost 5. It would have cost 20 last year. Oh, so we wouldn't have Devon Witherspoon and Jackson Smith and Njigba. Okay, for CJ Stroud, I'll definitely, you can have those 2 guys. And it would cost us our first round pick this year. Well, what are we going to spend? What should we be spending our first round pick on this year? A quarterback. So fine. And maybe something else. And all we've got out of it, let's look at the picks we got for Russell Wilson. Charles Cross, average starter. Let's face it, he's an average starter. He's not a Pro Bowler. May not be anytime soon. He's kind of a Dwayne Brown kind of guy. Maybe 5 years, 6 years into his career, he'll start playing well enough when he learns the game to be a Pro Bowler. We got Charles Cross. Our other second round pick we got last year, we got Boye Mafe. Slightly above average starter, 9 sacks, potential to get more. Let's give him a little credit, but average starter. Last year, we got the 5th pick in the draft, Devon Witherspoon. And then we got a second round pick, Derek Hall. And we got some other stuff. We got 5, 6, 7, 8 guys. And I'm going to do a tweet about this later. Seahawk Boy Mike tweet later. We got a few other guys, but 3 or 4 of them are not even with the team anymore. Shelby Harris, gone. Fant is still here. We just re-signed him. He's the only guy that we've really kept. So where is this big draft haul that we got? Devon Witherspoon, who's going to be a Pro Bowl corner, but probably not a Hall of Famer. Derek Hall, who's a stiff. Boye Mafe. That's pretty much what we got out of the trade. Would you trade those 3 guys for CJ Stroud? Yeah, I would have. I would have done it last year to trade up to the number 1 pick because we had plenty of juice to do that and get our quarterback. But John Schneider and Pete Carroll didn't want to do that because they were as delusional as Seahawks Twitter. They thought after his breakout, big journeyman career year in 2022 that Geno was going to solve the problem. The problem was solve the quarterback. Well, no, it's not. And the Vikings are not stupid enough to repeat Seattle's mistakes. So I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to take 23 and they're going to take 11 and they're probably going to move up. It'll get you to 5. It'll get you to 4. It'll get you to 5. I'm thinking Arizona's probably looking to trade out. Yeah, they would probably like to have Marvin Harrison Jr., but they're thinking we trade back to 11. There's still 2, 3 wide receivers we can get. If that's what they even want, maybe they want to keep building their offensive line. So let's look at Arizona would then have 4. They would have 11. They would have 23. They would have 27. They would have 35 in the second round, and they would have 66 in the third round. The meat of this draft is the first 3 rounds. After that, there's not much. It's slim pickings. They're going to have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. And they probably will get some other change out of it from the Vikings. Vikings don't have much left, but they'll probably get some out of it because they're going to build their team around Kyler Murray and the players that they already have. Seahawks don't do that, and we're now paying the price for that. Okay, so let's slide over again and look at the reality of the situation with the Seattle Seahawks. When I say Seahawks Twitter is delusional, I mean they're delusional about our players. Oh, we got Geno Smith. Sam Howell will be a good backup to Geno Smith. If Sam Howell can't beat Geno Smith for this job, he wasn't worth trading for. He wasn't worth trading the equivalent of a third-round pick, 95, for. Because that's what the numbers add up to. Let's take a look real quick at Geno. This is a quick, easy chart here that will show you why people like me last year were trying to caution everybody on Seahawks Twitter. Corbin Smith, who's a dumbass. Hawk blogger, dumbass. The only guy who's smart out there, I think, Seahawks dumb shit Nelson. The only guy out there who's smart is Rob Staten. Because he knew, as I knew, that it was time to get a quarterback. And we didn't do that. Because Pete Carroll and John Schneider are clowns. But let's take a look. Geno Smith in 2022, almost 70% completion, 69.8, 4,282 yards. Oh, team record. Yeah, except he had an extra game that Russell never had. 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 100.9 quarterback rating. I agree that is a great year. Now, did he still have trouble winning games in big moments against good teams? Oh, hell yeah. But you can't complain about that too much. That makes Geno probably the best of the guys who aren't good enough. That's a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. But what I told everybody is there has never been a quarterback in NFL history past the age of 30, a journeyman quarterback past the age of 30 who has had a career year and then gone on to repeat that level of success. It has never happened. And I've gotten into debates with Corbin Smith and some other people about, well, Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon had a couple of decent years when he first went to the Raiders, and then he was the MVP in 2002. Now, that MVP was a joke. The idea that he was a better player than Brett Favre or Peyton Manning or Tom Brady is utterly ridiculous. But they gave him the MVP because guys like Chris Mortensen pushed and pushed and pushed for it. His MVP season was basically the equivalent of Jared Goff's 2022 season statistically. It wasn't all that great, but it was his best year by a wide margin. 27 touchdowns, I think 8 interceptions. Pretty good year. Pretty darn good year. 2 years later, he was out of the league. Next year, he fell off the cliff. Basically, when he went to the Super Bowl, John Gruden, the opposing coach for Tampa Bay, turned him into a pumpkin. 6 interceptions in that game. He exposed what he really was, and he fell apart. Well, as I said, the same thing is going to happen with Geno Smith because Geno is not a unicorn. He is not the first player in NFL history that's going to repeat a career. And, there was no sign this was coming. None at all. None at all. Everybody's telling us how brilliant Pete was because he knew this. Pete didn't know this. Geno stepped in for Russ for 3 games in 2021. And he played like the Geno Smith we've always seen. Mediocre, average, below average. He was so bad that we had to rush Russell back, even though he had torn tendon on his throwing hand and couldn't throw the ball anywhere near what he was doing before that. And I'm not positive he's 100% recovered in terms of his grip on the ball. He hasn't lost any velocity that I can see, but he's maybe lost 5% off his fastball because he can't grip the ball the way he used to because he's permanently damaged by that injury, which was caused by the fact that Pete and John picked a 170-pound scat back named D. Eskridge with their second-round pick instead of Creed Humphrey, the center that everybody knew they needed. And who's, 3-time All-Pro now? 2 Super Bowl rings. If he'd have been blocking Aaron Donald, Donald would never have gotten close to Russ, so Russ could get his hand injured, and we'd be in a much different situation. So I told everybody what's going to happen. Geno's going to drop off 25, 30%. Well, let's take a look at what happened. His completion percentage went down to 64.7. His yards went down by, about 700 yards, 3,624 yards. He missed a couple games. Fair enough. Touchdowns dropped from 30 to 20. Interceptions dropped from 11 to 9. But the ratio went from 3 to 1 to 2 to 1. And the ratio is what's important. And his quarterback rating dropped by 9 points. 9 points. This is not going to stop. Geno is not going to bounce back and have 2022 again in 2024. I don't care who you put around him. He's 34. It's not going to happen. So what they should have done is cut him loose this offseason and traded for somebody else. And the guy I wanted was Justin Fields. And I'm going to be vindicated on that too. Because Justin Fields is like Sam Howell, but with a lot more talent. And he's a better quarterback than Sam Howell. So how do we know this? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a look at some highlight reels. Let's take a look at Sam Howell's highlight reel. Okay. Here it is. Let's get it expanded to full screen. And let's just watch without sound. Now, what I want you to do here is I want you to, we're not going to, apparently I don't have the button. What we're going to do here is I want you to watch Sam Howell's head. I don't want you to watch his arm. His arm's good. I don't want you to watch his legs. His legs are pretty good. He's not as good a scrambler as Justin Fields, but he's pretty close. Athletic young guy. I want you to watch his head, and you're going to see why Sam Howell has a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. We'll talk about it. Let's play it. Okay, here's the snap. Sam looks back, rolls to his right, First read's not there. Pretty good play. Like that play. Now keep watching. Keep watching. Snap. One. Well, oh, he looked to the same spot. He looked one direction to one spot and threw it to that spot. Let's watch. Let's watch this play. Shotgun snap, 2 or 3 step drop, focuses completely on one part of the field, throws the ball to that part of the field. One read to that guy. That's the guy he was watching the entire time. One read. Let's watch him again. Maybe he'll throw a touchdown here. Step back. Oh no, we did 2 reads that time and then ran the ball. Good play. Good play, Sam. Good play. I like this. I'd like to see more of that if you're a Seahawks quarterback. Fucking commercial. God, I should have paid for YouTube. On my other computer I have YouTube. Okay, so here's the Broncos game. Focus one area, throws the ball to that area. He is a one read quarterback, and you can watch this. We can skip forward. It does not improve. That was not 2 reads. That was a designed look this way and then throw it back that way for a screen. So that was a designed screen play. He does that the whole time. You can watch this tape over and over and over again. Now, let's look at Justin Fields' highlight reel from 2023. Here's Justin taking the snap. One read, second read, drops it to that was his check down. So he first read wasn't there, check down. That was not a designed play like the screen pass was. Okay, fake, look to one side. Oh, not there. Oh, okay. Well, that was a one read thing. Okay. So Justin's kind of similar in that sense. Now watch his head. Fake, looks straight downfield, looks to his left, makes his second read, throws the ball to the open guy. Not something you see Sam Howell do very much. Okay, look, one first read right there, throws the ball, gets it on target, hits him in stride. Wasn't late, was right on time with the throw. Okay, first read's not there, second read's not there. I'm going to spin out of this, and I'm going to run the ball and make a huge play. Okay, Mahomes type play. Now Sam can kind of do that. Okay, there's Cole Kmet in motion, had 73 catches. First read, second read, goes to his second read, throws the ball. Right on time. This is all still the Packers game. Okay, one read, second read, goes deep, touchdown. First read was inside, second read was outside, touchdown. Once again, first read, second read goes outside. Okay, let's jump to some other games. Here he is against Kansas City. This was a terrible game. Great throw, by the way. Totally awesome throw. Snap the ball under center, fake it, first read, second read, third read. I see an opening. I'm going to make a play. So here's the thing. Well, let's watch one more. First read, fake. Rolls to his right, throws the ball back against his body inside. Great play. All right, so here's the point. The point is that there is a difference between these two guys. And the difference is that Justin Fields makes more than one read. And if you look at Sam Howell, he does not. I go to YouTube, watch that. There's only 2 or 3 times out of about 40 or 50 plays that I saw where Sam Howell made a second read. I don't think I remember him making a third read. So he's a one-read wonder. That's why he has 21 interceptions. Snap the ball, focus. Okay, he's up and throw it. That's how you get interceptions in the NFL. I'm not sure you can coach that out of him. After 2 seasons, he's already got 2 seasons in the NFL, and he's still doing it. I don't know. I'll have to go to the end of the highlight reel and see if it gets any better at the very end. But I watched almost all of it yesterday, and it was one read, one read, one read, one read. That's why he's not successful. That's why Justin Fields was worth trading for. And people are like, oh, well, but you're only paying Sam Howell $1 million this year and $1 million next year. That's great. He's cheap. Justin Fields, you're only paying him $3 million this year. You pick up his fifth-year option, it's 23, 24, 25. Averages out to $15 million over the next 2 years. If Justin Fields is your starter for the next 2 years at $15 million, that is a bargain. So the question then becomes, could they have gotten Justin Fields for a third and a fifth? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he gets traded for. When he does get traded, I'm going to talk about it. I'll bet he goes for less than the 95th pick in the draft, which is what we paid for Sam Howell. I'll bet he goes for less than the 95th pick in the draft. I bet he goes for a fourth or a fifth or a sixth or maybe even a pick next year. So the only way that this makes any sense, what the Seahawks are doing, that they can't be that stupid, I don't think, but they can be. We used to think, at least I used to think, that the root of the stupidity every year in the offseason, in free agency and the draft, was Pete Carroll. This is Pete Carroll's he's in charge. He's making the ultimate decision. When we trade out of TJ Watt and then trade out of Cam Robinson and then trade out of Budda Baker so we can take Malik McDowell, that's Pete Carroll. That's got Pete Carroll written all over it. When we ignore Devontae Adams because he's the same size as Golden Tate, the guy who just left our team, and take Paul Richardson, who's even smaller, because he could take the top off the defenses, that's Pete Carroll. Paul Richardson wasn't a horrible player, but he was a fourth-round pick. You don't take him in the second round. You should have taken Devontae Adams. He's going to the Hall of Fame. The consistency of missing on the draft and missing in free agency, I always thought was Pete Carroll's fault. Now I don't think so. I think John Schneider is just as guilty of this delusional thinking as Pete Carroll. The Seahawks last year, when they thought they didn't need a quarterback, they were fucking delusional. They were right there to be able to trade up to the first pick with the Bears and get CJ Stroud. And they sat on their hands and took a corner and a receiver. They could have even taken Will Levis. Will Levis is much better than Sam Howell. He's looking around. He knows how to make his reads. He's physically bigger, taller, faster, athletically, and a great arm. I mean, I'm not gonna criticize Sam Howell's arm. It's really good. And the Seahawks, we really love Sam Howell in the 2022 draft, but not enough to spend a fourth-round pick on him. He spent it on Kobe Bryant, who's useless, who's a below-average player. Might stick around in the league another year or so, but he's really got to step his game up. They've done nothing at the quarterback position now for 2 years, since the day that will live in infamy when they traded away with Russell Wilson. And they haven't done much with the picks they got. One of the things they haven't done at all is draft a quarterback. The list of guys they have passed on since they traded Russell Wilson is this. Sam Howell. It's Brock Purdy, who is a lot better than Sam Howell. It's CJ Stroud, or even Anthony Richardson, who they could have had with the first pick. But if they had any brains, they would have taken CJ Stroud. And Will Levis. And now Justin Fields. That's 5 guys, all of whom have a higher ceiling than Geno Smith. I'm saying if you're going to trade for a quarterback, you should have traded for Justin Fields. Because, was he more expensive? Yeah, but he wasn't very expensive. He's pretty cheap, especially if you can turn him into what I think he can be. With all the offensive talent we have, I think look at what Justin Fields did with DJ Moore. 96 receptions, 1,300 and some odd yards, 14 yard per catch average, 8 touchdowns. Cole Kmet, tight end, 73 receptions, 6 touchdowns. I'm sorry. Those two guys couldn't have done any better if Patrick Mahomes was throwing them the ball. Justin Fields has all the talent in the world. And you got idiots like Seahawks Brandon Nelson. Oh, I'm so happy about this. This is so much better. Thank God it's not Justin Fields. Justin Fields is much better than Sam Howell. Now, can this trade work out? Yeah, it can. Howell has enough physical talent to be good. He has enough physical talent to beat out Geno. And then next year we can release Geno and save $25 million on the cap and have $60 million to spend or whatever it is. But there's no guarantees that's going to happen. And guys with this tunnel vision thing rarely break out of it. They rarely become the Tom Brady's of the world. So I'm not optimistic that's going to happen. Frankly, this is feeling to me like 2011. Pete and John had completely bollocksed the quarterback position in 2011. They went and traded a 20 pick. They dropped down 20 picks in the second and gave up a third-round pick for Charlie fucking Whitehurst. Touchdown Jesus. He was so bad that Tavares Jackson, one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen at the NFL level, beat him out for the job. I watched them both play live. They were both unbelievably terrible. That was who they thought their quarterback should be. And then their solution in 2011, 2012 was, well, Matt Flynn. This feels like Matt Flynn 2.0 to me. I'm hoping that's not the case. Now, can it be something else? Can they still salvage this thing? The answer is yes. What they should have done is I think I put it on my Twitter. There's 7 quarterbacks who have more upside than Geno Smith that are available this offseason. Sam Howell was not on that list for me. But Justin Fields was, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy even, and Spencer Rattler. So here's what might be happening. They might be saying, okay, Justin Fields, the Bears wanted too much. We don't know why Justin Fields hasn't been traded. It's probably because they want too much for him. But I am going to predict, flat out, that he's going to go for a lower pick than the equivalent of the 95th pick, which is what the Seahawks gave up for Sam Howell. So what could happen is we're going to sit at 16. Somebody is going to want one of the top. There's about 16 to 20 first-round players on Rob Staten's horizontal board. And I think if we go over and look at it, we can see that. Screenshot. Yeah, we can see Rob's latest horizontal board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Actually, quite a few. 22, 23, 24, 25. So these guys are considered guys that Rob would take in round 1. Now, Rob is not a god, but Rob is pretty freaking smart. He was smart enough to say the Seahawks should trade after the first pick and take C.J. Stroud last year, even though he admitted, he casually said it, they're not going to do it. But let's say one of these guys slides to the Seahawks. Well, and also what's going to happen is Penix and Rattler and May and McCarthy and Nix are all probably going to go before the Seahawks pick. What that's going to do then is push some really good players, maybe a tackle, maybe an edge to that 16th pick. And the Seahawks, they re-signed Darrell Taylor. They pretty much closed down their edge room. I think what's likely is that some of the corners are going to be sitting there at 16, and we don't need a corner. So somebody may call us up and trade. And what I think we're going to try to do is trade down into the mid-20s to low 30s and pick up a second-round pick and maybe pick up something else. And obviously, that's the scenario now. It's possible that Penix lasts till 16. It's not likely because I don't think he gets past the Raiders, but it's possible. If that happens, they should take him, regardless of this. And then they should try to trade Geno to anybody who will take him. They should say, we will pay his salary. Just give us a 2025 seventh rounder for him. Because then when you do that, guess what? You can get him off of your books. Where is it? Do I have, no, damn it. Okay. But we can go look over that at over the cap. They could then unload Geno and they could go with Sam Howell as their starter for this year and Penix as their heir apparent, the guy who's sitting for a year or so, not playing all that much, and has a chance to actually be the starter in 2025. So let's take a look at that. Now, because of a weird quirk of the way the contract worked out, guess what we can do with Geno? If we cut him, we only save $200,000. So that's not worth doing. But he's our top cap hit right now at 26.4. If we cut him, actually, if we cut him pre-6-1, we lose 13.3 million. We're not doing that. If we cut him post 6-1, we save 200,000. Call him a post 6-1 cap hit. And if we do that, I think our 2025 cap goes up. Yeah, like 40. Oh, whoops, wrong one. Goes up to like 41 million. But if we trade him post 6-1, we save 13 million under the cap for this year and a whole bunch, like 25 million next year. So that is totally worth doing if you have somebody in here. So there's a chance. You're telling me there's a chance. There's a chance that if Penix falls to 16, they should stick and take him because they still need the young quarterback. And then they could, cut a deal with somebody. They could basically say, we'll give you Geno Smith and our 6th round pick next year for your 7th round pick next year. And we'll pay a salary. And get that money off the books. It would be a great move if you had a guy like Penix. I don't think that's going to happen. God, I've been talking a long time. I don't think it's going to happen. But what could happen is this. You trade down from 16 to 24, 16 to 30, 16 to 32. Maybe there's an offensive lineman or a defensive player, a corner that the Chiefs really like. And they're like, okay, we'll give you our 1st and our 2nd to jump up there to 16. So we're sitting there at 32, 31. There's a small possibility, although I think he should be gone by then. Let's say Spencer Rattler is still there. Then they could do the same thing where they could pick Rattler because he's there. He's their young quarterback of the future. Howell becomes the starter. You trade Geno. You save 13 million under the cap this year, 25 million next year. It's money you can go spend on good players. And you get a 2nd round pick out of it. And you still got a 3rd, a 4th, 2/5, I think it is, and a 6th now with all these trades we've made. With this trade we made with Howell. So Howell becomes your starter. You live with the pain. And you bring Rattler along slowly for a year. Now, Rob Staten's made a big deal out of the fact the Seahawks have really focused on drafting character. And although he's really straightened out his act, Spencer Rattler has some character concerns. I don't think they're that bad. And I'm hoping that they're not delusional. What I think is the more likely scenario is that John is delusional. He thinks they don't need a young quarterback. He thinks they solved that problem with Sam Howell. And what they're going to do is trade out of 16, trade down, not even look at quarterbacks. I think if they trade out of 16 to 32, I think if Penix was there at 32, they'd pass. I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're just going to draft some other position player, just like they have the last 2 years. But I'm hopeful that Penix is there at 16 and they can take him. And I'm hopeful that Rattler is still there because Penix won't be, I don't think. when they trade down to where they trade down to, and they can then pull this scenario off. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're delusional. I think they're crazy. And I think anybody on Seahawks Twitter that supports them is just as delusional. I think anybody out there, any of the names on Seahawks Twitter that think Geno Smith is good enough, you're crazy. There's no way that he is going to not continue to decline. He is going to decline. And then next year, we'll be stuck with another quarterback who's probably not good enough, Sam Howell. And then we'll be forced to draft one in a year where there aren't going to be a lot of great quarterbacks. And we don't have any extra juice to go get one, like we had last year. We could have gotten a guy who had the greatest rookie season in the last 25 years, at least, CJ Stroud. All right, that's it. That's what I got. I'm pissed off. It's almost to the point because they've screwed the quarterback position up so much. It's almost like I don't care what else they do. I don't care if they sign another linebacker. I don't care if they find an offensive guard, because it's not going to make a difference. I used to think the problem would be solved if we could just solve Pete, because maybe, probably, possibly John was smarter. John was the guy who found Russ. John was the guy who wanted Russ. John would have traded up in 2012 from 75 into the second round to go get Russ if Pete had let him. Pete wouldn't let him. They got lucky and Russ slid to 75 because the Jaguars took a fucking punter in the third round. I don't think God's going to bail the Seahawks out this year. This team is becoming harder and harder to root for because it feels like the front office is in disarray, like they don't know what they're doing. The only thing you can say about me is what I'm saying to you. I'm making predictions. It's testable. It's a testable theory. Let's see what happens. Thanks for being here. You guys have a great day, and let's see what happens in Seahawk land today. Or as the Brits call it, Clown Cuckoo World.